Welcome to Where Her Heart Speaks, a show designed to challenge and disrupt ineffective thoughts and behaviors to help you not only embody peace, joy, calm, and certainty, but also to help you live the life you've always dreamed of living. Where Her Heart Speaks with Coach Catherine begins now.
Hi there, it's Coach Catherine. Have you ever wondered about the state of your nervous system? Do your thoughts, behaviors, and actions come from your authentic self, or are they trauma responses? We've all heard about the fight or flight response, but what does that really mean? Listen, I've created a quick and easy assessment for you to determine the state of your nervous system. Is it keeping you safe? Is it keeping you stuck? Or is it allowing you to be your authentic self and thrive? If you'd like to know the answer to one or more of those questions, as well as how to experience peace and calm in your life, I want to invite you to go to my website at www.catherinejames.com, and right there on the front page, you will find access to the assessment. So go there now, right there on the front page. So welcome and welcome back. I'm Catherine James, international speaker, best-selling author, trauma-informed coach, and your host for this show, Where Her Heart Speaks. If you are a woman leader or you desire to climb the corporate ladder one day and become a woman leader, you do not want to skip over this episode. You'll want to go ahead right now, grab your pen, grab a pad, get comfortable, and listen up. Because today, unlike most days where we get into trauma, we are going in a totally different direction. I am super excited to bring to you the collaborative confidence expert, Dr. Heather Backstrom, who is here to tell you everything, nearly everything. We don't have enough time. Nearly everything about women leaders and how they can activate self-awareness, amplify their authentic talents, and accelerate workplace change. Yes. So I want to say welcome, Dr. Heather Backstrom.
Catherine, thank you. I feel like I'm sitting down and having a cup of coffee with you right now. You set such a beautiful conversational tone and approach and warmth. Thank you, thank you, thank you for inviting me in to being in conversation with you and all of your listeners.
Thank you. I am so happy to have you here. And you're here at a perfect time because I think last week was kind of a tough topic, and I don't know how many people were ready to come back into a tough topic, but also today, as we are actually recording this on Juneteenth, we're talking about like freedom. And as I'm thinking about collaborative confidence, and we'll get into it, and before I run too far, I'm gonna have you introduce yourself. But as I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking, yes, this is definitely a way to usher women into freedom. So, we'll come back to
Absolutely. I think the universe must have been in what's that word I'm looking for? Cahoots to have us talking today on June 19th and talking about women's leadership and freedom. I love that you brought that up.
Yes, right. So before we go too far, why don't you tell us who Dr. Heather Backstrom is? What is your backstory and how did you get here?
Sure. Well, today I'm an executive coach, workshop facilitator, author, speaker, and I come out of corporate human resources. So I worked in corporate America for a long time. And then about 8 years ago, maybe actually even closer to 9 years ago, I decided to leave the corporate life behind and focus on executive presence, executive leadership, women's leadership, leadership development, team development, coaching, and work that was more what I consider more human-centric work. So wanted to leave my human resources job, which I did enjoy for many, many years, got a lot of value out of it, learned a lot of things. And as the years went by, it was more about discipline, performance metrics, layoffs, that kind of work. And I really was drawn toward and very compelled toward human-centric work, which led me to coaching and team development, leadership development, et cetera.
Yeah, I feel human-centered work.
Yes, exactly.
And just this thing about, I was, in the corporate sector for a long time. And just before we came on, I mentioned, I'll just throw it out there for the world to celebrate with me, that today is actually my anniversary from leaving the corporate world. June 19th is when I stepped out of that space 4 years ago. But I do remember the shift that was made in human resources, where it used to feel all warm and fuzzy and more human-centered, and then went to more about, I think, discipline. So
Risk
I
averse.
am happy that you were able to transition into something that speaks more to your soul and more in alignment with who you are. And you've taken it even a step further, like not just out here doing the work, but you've done something very special in helping others who are in leadership roles, women in particular, to advance, but also to support one another. As I guess we'll use this word collaborate, right?
Yeah, exactly. You hit it right on target. Yes.
So you have a new book out, and the title is Collaborative Confidence. And before I ask you to explain that, what I want you to do is maybe just share a little bit about why you actually wrote this book.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't set out to write a book, right? It emerged. It came kind of to me through my own experiences of my own personal experiences and the experiences of women leaders that I was coaching, I was working with, I was around. And so the way collaborative confidence emerged for me is I was coaching these really extraordinary, talented, accomplished, smart, intelligent, capable women. And inevitably they were doubting themselves, right? They would question, oh, should I do this? Should I do that? Did I say that right? Where should I sit in the right? Whatever. They were just questioning themselves. Am I capable of doing this? And I'm like, yes, you are. And to be honest with myself, I turned the mirror on me, and was, and still I continue to be a work in progress, questioning my capability, my value, do I really know enough? Can I really go for this opportunity? And so there was that aspect that I was just noticing. And then there was also the aspect of, I really believe that women enjoy being in relationship with each other. Even if it's only one other woman or two other women, it doesn't have to be a crowd of women. But I think that's in our nature, that we enjoy relationship. We enjoy being connected. We want to be collaborative, and so combining this notion of confidence and women really holding their confidence and owning their confidence and believing in their confidence, and being relational, being in community, being collaborative at the same time. And I married the two words, collaborative confidence, and that's where it came from.
Nice. And there we go, right? And it's so intriguing. I know for myself, and how we even got here was, you said collaborative confidence, and immediately something was like, now that's an idea. It's something we don't hear a lot about in the workplace when it comes to women working together. So I want you to explain your definition of collaborative confidence, and I'm going to toot your horn as well, because what I know also is that you not only created this term, collaborative confidence. You've coined the term
Mhm.
and patent the term. So it is yours, you own it. Kudos
Mhm.
to you. um, so, which also says that it's something new. So, what is your definition? How do you define collaborative confidence?
Yeah, so I define collaborative confidence as I am responsible for my own confidence and I'm responsible for helping other women with their confidence.
Yeah.
Again, that relational, that reciprocity of you supporting another woman with her confidence and she's supporting you with your confidence. And I think also that another element of that is as women, we just shoulder so much in this world, don't we? I mean, we're taking care of families, we're taking care of households, we're taking care of our community, we're taking care of our friends, we're taking care of our parents, our children, what have you. And this idea of collaborative confidence of, oh, I don't have to shoulder it all on my own.
Yeah.
I have another woman or a set of women or a circle of women, and they can be colleagues, or they can be friends, they can be a combination of both, but I'm not shouldering this alone. We are doing this together. We are building and shaping and encouraging and nurturing our confidence together.
Mm. That is so beautiful. As you're talking, all I can see is like a circle. I can see a circle as I'm, just staring out into space, but I can also see like a women's circle with women's arms linked where we just know we're not alone. And so many women who suffer from this thing where they feel they are alone, one, but also the need to isolate themselves. And
Mhm.
so as you talk about that, just this reciprocity where I'm responsible for self, but I'm also responsible for others. And if everyone had that particular mindset,
Absolutely.
oh my gosh, what a beautiful place, right?
Yeah.
So, what you talk about in your book, Collaborative Confidence, in really flushing this out and helping others to understand what that means, there are three pillars
Mhm.
you have used to, I think, just really help make it very clear.
Mhm.
How is it that I build my own confidence? And then there's another pillar for how is it that I help others build their confidence? And then yet another pillar that
Mhm.
furthers that. So can you talk to us about the three pillars?
Sure. Yes. So there's three pillars, and you laid them out really, really lovely right there, Catherine. So there's the activate pillar, the amplify pillar, and the accelerate pillar. And just as you were reflecting, there are three lenses to those pillars. The first one, activate pillar, is introspective. It's reflecting on oneself. So with the activate, you're activating your self-awareness, activating your strengths, your values, your inner champion. So you're activating yourself. Then the amplify pillar has an external view. It's about amplifying yourself to others, showcasing your talents, your abilities, your executive presence, telegraphing it and just demonstrating your capabilities, your confidence, yourself to others, amplifying yourself. And then also an amplify is about amplifying other women. Again, that reciprocity, that mutual support. So it's about amplifying other women's talents, their voices in the room, their presence, their value, recommending them, showcasing other women. So it's amplifying other women as well. And then the third pillar, accelerate, that's the big picture. And that's the organizational view, that organizations have skin in the game. They have responsibility to support women leaders, to elevate women leaders. And they can do that. They can accelerate women's leadership in a lot of different ways, including through equal pay and addressing burnout, offering flexible work environment schedules, offering sponsorships to women, et cetera. So accelerate takes the organizational lens and the responsibility that they have around empowering, cultivating, growing, nurturing women leaders.
Mm-hmm. That is so good. And I think there is a lot of conversation around how organizations can support women leaders. I know there's a lot of conversation around self-development and how we build ourselves. I
Mhm.
don't know that there's a lot of conversation around how we build others.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when we go into this amplify
Mhm.
pillar, look at the amplified lens, I think what you did in the book that was so amazing and more of a telltale, made it very clear as to what this looks like. You told a story.
Yes, yes.
And I would love for you to share that story.
I love sharing. Thank you. I love sharing this story, and I fully confess is probably not the right word, because it's a place of I'm very happy that I know this story, because it was the inspiration for the Amplify pillar, and it was also very integral just in me, in my mind, fleshing out the concept of what does collaborative confidence as a total really mean. So it comes from the Obama administration. And ultimately it's about amplifying other women and making sure every woman's voice, presence, contributions are noticed, heard, appreciated, valued, etc. So in his first administration, his cabinet members and high-level leaders were mostly men, which is not all that unusual, right? But the women leaders, who were just as capable and smart and talented and had just as much expertise as the men around the table and in the room, they were finding their voices were getting squashed. And I know this is something every woman can relate to. I'm raising my hand right now saying I have had my voice squashed many times, right? Exactly. I see you raising your hand too, Catherine, right? Right. Whether we're interrupted or we give an idea and 2 minutes later a man says the same idea, or we're not even invited to the meeting, or what have you. So the women did something I think is just so brilliant. Behind the scenes, they got together and they came up with something that they called amplification. That was the springboard for the Amplify pillar. So they decided to engage in amplification. So what they did is that in meetings, if a woman said something, another woman made sure to repeat what that first woman said so that it was heard. Or if a woman got interrupted, they would redirect the conversation and say, oh, I think Catherine got cut off. I'd really like to hear the rest of her thought.
Mhm.
And when a woman would give a suggestion, an idea, another woman would make sure to echo it so that that suggestion was attributed to that particular woman. And they just did this repeatedly over and over again in meetings and meetings. And guess what? Obama noticed. So here we kind of get into how the organizations can also change, because the leader happened to be the president of the United States, but he changed his behaviors. And what he started doing is he started calling on women in meetings. He started asking, initiating and wanting to know their ideas, their opinions, etc. And he took it a step further, that at least in certain meetings, he widened the circle of who was invited to certain meetings, and he invited some junior aides to certain meetings. So now kind of the next level down of leaders were getting exposed to decision-making, to struggles, to discussions that they normally would not have exposure to. So their own professional development, I'm sure personal development too, is also getting nurtured there. So that's the springboard for what became the Amplify pillar, was the Obama White House in his first administration, and how that group of women so brilliantly got together and decided that they were going to support each other, and what that support then manifested and turned into.
Absolutely beautiful. And for those of you who are listening, if you missed those 3 points, what was shared, if you are a leader or if you're on the rise and you find yourself sitting around, say, a board table, and you notice that women's voices are being squashed, there was 3 things that were shared there: to repeat what was said, to redirect the conversation. You notice that conversation kind of goes in another direction immediately after something is said, then just redirect it. Hey, let's hear what she was saying, or let's hear the follow-up or the balance of that sentence. And then also to echo, just repeating what was said. So keep that in mind as you are in meetings around board tables with
Exactly.
that maybe are predominantly men.
Yes, exactly.
Where it's very popular.
Yes, yes. And I want to add one more piece to this story that kind of takes it to the next step, because it does speak again to the organizational vantage point, to the kind of that accelerate idea. So in his second administration, he had greater gender parity of women in the highest levels of leadership. So he shifted his own administration to one of gender inequality or equity in the first administration into one of gender parity and greater equality in the second one. So I wanted to also add that into the story to complete the bigger picture of the story.
I love it. I love it. And I think it speaks to the leader as
Yes,
leading
absolutely.
others and have a desire to be a better leader.
Yeah.
That's something to really consider. How do you make shifts that
Mhm.
are really going to add value to the organization itself?
Yes, yes.
And we know that women having more space, taking up bigger space, definitely adds value.
Mhm.
So one of the things that I want to also look at is this thing that you call strengths deficit.
Mhm.
And I'm leaning in this direction because I know that one, statistics tell us that women are experiencing burnout at a rate of 46%.
Yes.
That is very, very high. And
Yeah.
in comparison to men who are only at 38%, that is concerning.
Mhm.
So I know for myself, when I was still in the corporate sector, there was a lot of energy spent on weaknesses.
Yes, yes.
And what I love when you point to strengths deficit, and I'll have you speak about it, but there's something that you said in the book that I actually wrote down because I thought, well, this is brilliant. And what if we just did this, right? And what you said in terms of the weaknesses is to use your strengths to manage your weaknesses. Like we have been taught and told for so long that we have to improve our weaknesses. So we spend all of this time and energy trying to fix something that's been deemed, maybe not our best asset.
Mhm.
And you instead say, no, let's acknowledge our weaknesses, know that they're there,
Sure,
own them,
sure.
and take the strengths, the things that come to us naturally, the things that we're automatically good at, and manage those weaknesses.
Yes, yes, exactly. And you are so right about all the research around that our strengths is what propel us forward, right? And we do need to manage our weaknesses. We do need to be aware of our weaknesses. We can't ignore them. And at the same time, we don't want to be doing the majority of our work should not be where we are using our weaknesses, because that depletes us. It's a source of burnout for us. So we can't, while we can't ignore our weaknesses, hopefully we're not centered on using them in our everyday regular work, for the majority of our work. And to what you were saying, Catherine, we can use our strengths to try to manage our weaknesses. So if I have a strength, let's say I have a strength in analytical skills. I wish I did, but we're just doing a hypothetical here, right? So if I know that I'm really strong in analytical skills, but I notice that I don't have great relationships with certain team members or colleagues, I can use my analytical skills to kind of tune into, what's going on in that relationship. I can kind of analyze that relationship. And maybe through my analysis of that relationship, I recognize, I interrupt that person a lot. So I'll stop interrupting that person a lot. So I manage the relationship. I'm not a strong relationship. That's not a strength of mine, but I can adjust my own behaviors to have a better relationship with that person. Or maybe I notice, gosh, all the reports I give that person are just full of data. I don't ever give a narrative or a voiceover or sit down with them and walk them through the report. I just hand them the analytical report because it makes so much sense. It's so logical, it's obvious to me. But if I analyze that other person, my relationship with that other person, maybe I realize, oh, it would be helpful for me to sit down and walk through the report, or to provide a paragraph narrative to help them understand. And then therefore I'm working on a weakness of mine through a strength, the weakness of relationship building, but I'm using a strength to get there.
Nice, nice. And the importance of why we want to acknowledge that the weakness is there. Because now we can say, how do I change it so that it is a benefit, not only to myself, but to the organization as a whole? I love that. What I was hearing as you were talking is a call to pause.
Oh, I love that call to pause. You need to trademark that, Catherine.
If we just pause for a moment, we can say, I realize that this relationship doesn't feel as good as I would like, or maybe it's not as functional as I would like for it to be, so that we can add value into the organization or into the relationship or into the friendship, whatever. But it requires us to pause long enough to say, it's not what I desire it to be.
Yes, yes.
And then instead of maybe pointing the finger at the other person, we own it.
Absolutely.
I'm not good at relationship building, but
Right.
I am good at analyzing. So what's happening? And I would throw in, and this is me coming from a trauma perspective, always asking like the other side, what do you need from me? And they may say, I need you to be more jovial. I need you. And maybe that's not who you are. Again, now you're taking me into my weakness. But from a strength standpoint, is offering what you can bring to the table. What that's not me authentically, and probably won't really build a relationship, because if one person is inauthentic,
Yeah, right.
problem there, right? But being able to say, but I'm really good at analyzing.
Yes.
And what I noticed is, you're not necessarily a data person. Maybe you like summarized information. And so how about I give it to you in that form?
Exactly.
So all of it takes time, but being able to pause to say, something's not effective here, something's not efficient here, and coming back to self. That's what I loved about all of this. Even as we're looking out to others, we're always coming back to self.
That's exactly right. Always come. I think that is just such a focal point for life, to always come back to self.
Yeah.
And how might I adjust? And I still want to be authentic. And I love that you brought in that word, and that because I absolutely believe in authenticity. So yes, I can look at myself and I can adjust and do it in a way that is authentic to me. And when it becomes too much of a stretch, then again, looking at self, that's not healthy for me. It's not good for me, because now I'm no longer being who I am. However, can I stretch and still remain who I am, be authentic, and focus on my strengths while doing so?
And is always the answer, right?
Exactly. Yes, it is. It is.
And we can have both.
Absolutely. We can have both. We can have both. Yes.
So another thing that really stood out to me as I was going through the book is, you talked a lot about executive presence.
Yes.
And why this stood out to me, we kind of touched on a little bit already, is because I know, coming from that environment, being around those tables, is a lot of women's voices, and I'm going to use your word, are squashed.
Yes. Yes.
So when we look at executive presence, I see executive presence as being one of the ways to ensure, along with amplifying, like other,
Mhm, mhm,
but one of the ways to ensure that your voice isn't squashed.
mhm. Yes, right.
And so I was excited about this particular chapter because you gave so many good, juicy tips
Good.
that can be implemented immediately to build your executive presence. And just as I reflect, and I wrote some down,
Mm,
was, being fully present,
mhm,
being fully
mhm.
present. And as you said earlier, women are shouldering so much. We have the household, we have the children. If you have children, if you have pets, if you have, a spouse, if you have parents, like for the most part, you're managing all of it. And
Right.
most times it's the woman, which can impact how present we are.
Yes, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
being fully present, which I think one of the easiest ways to do that is to focus on the environment that you're sitting in at that
Mhm,
particular time.
mhm, mhm. Right.
So everything else is turned off.
Right.
Another one you though talked about mindset and energy
Mhm, mhm,
and physical appearance.
mhm, mhm,
How
mhm.
is it that we stand? Are we slumped over? Are we standing back straight, shoulders back, that confidence? When I was reading that, I thought about the Wonder Woman stance.
Yes, exactly. Yes, the Wonder Woman stance, anything that brings into the physical body that connection with self, that authentic connection with your internal strength and how your body literally supports you every day, and then bringing that forward into your mindset, your heart, your attitude, your capacity to be present there wherever you may be.
Yeah, yeah. So this executive presence, I want you to just speak to why you believe it's important. And I'm asking this because I know there are a lot of women who are in executive roles, management roles,
Mhm.
and despite their titles, still maybe not carry the presence
Yes, right.
that comes with that particular title, which means they are possibly not held to the same level of respect
Mhm.
as
Yes.
the man who may
Yes.
be holding that title. So do tell.
Yes, 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 yes. Well, an executive presence, the way I define it into three overarching areas of authentically showing up, presenting yourself, and then genuinely connecting. So, and those are the three areas that I break down where I break down executive presence. And I think a starting point for women is even before you get into the room, to decide that you belong there, right? As you're walking down the hall to that room or logging into Zoom or getting on the phone, whatever the means is having that mindset of just deciding, yes, I belong here, I'm wanted here, I have value that I'm adding here. And I think then again, going back to our conversation earlier about it beginning with self, then I think then that puts a woman on better footing once the interaction begins. If she already has that mindset, that belief that she belongs there, then she's in a better position to hold herself, credibly, to hold her gravitas, to communicate clearly, to come across approachable, to come across with presence, with value, with again credibility and credence. So I would say that a starting point is just to decide, and which probably sounds so simple, just to decide, just do it. But it can be very challenging. So maybe a starting point is looking at your calendar and practicing, and choose one meeting. Okay, this is the meeting today that I am going to practice executive presence, where I'm going to walk in even ahead of time and decide that I belong there. And then after the meeting, I'll kind of evaluate how it felt, how I did, and how I was perhaps different in that meeting or that interaction than other meetings where I don't take where I'm not attentive to considering and to deciding on my mindset of I belong there.
So here's my question. Let's get into the sticky part.
Okay.
Because one of the things that I say, one of the things that I have noticed, I always play off of this term or this phrase, why is it that when we know better, we can't do better? So often as we say, I'm just going to choose, like, I know this is what I should be doing.
Yes.
So this meeting, I'm just going to choose to show up this way. And then it doesn't happen.
Yes, exactly. It's like, yes, I get it. I'm going to go to the gym this morning, and suddenly you're laid in your bed that night and you never went, right?
Yes. And what I have come to believe, what I hold is for so many, there's these beliefs in our nervous system.
Yes.
Longstanding. We as women were told as little girls, you have to behave this way. You can't say it that way. You have to do it this way. You have to be nice and sweet. And we know that sometimes in those meetings, nice and sweet does not support us. It doesn't serve our best interest. So I bring that up to help people understand, and to help women who may be listening, who maybe have said, I'm going to do it this time, and don't, to have compassion.
Yes.
And patience with self, because it is a journey, even in developing executive presence or showing up in these spaces from a place of confidence and certainty. If in our nervous systems, we have these beliefs that are embedded, that comes from years ago, that we weren't even aware of, right?
Right.
So also, just as we talk about working on self, it always starts with self. So if you're someone who's listening and you're saying, yes, that's been my experience, I would say you might need to consider a coach as well.
Sure.
To help you move beyond that.
Sure. Exactly. Yeah. Whatever support system that works for you, a coach, a mentor, a therapist, colleague. Some other things that I do, and that I work with my clients on, is I will sometimes think about after the fact. So I have this meeting, and in this meeting, I want to make sure I speak up. Let's say that's the thing that I'm going to practice. I'm going to make sure I say something. Before the meeting, I will think about after the meeting how I'm going to feel about myself afterwards, if I did or if I didn't speak up. And so that, for me, that ends up being an anchor or a reminder of, ooh, Heather, I'm sitting in this meeting. How do I want to feel afterwards? And that can be a motivation for me to want to, okay, I am going to speak up, because then afterwards I'll be able to really say, oh, I know what that felt like. I've learned from that. So I will think forward. Something else that I encourage women to do, and myself to do as well, think about 10%. Like, what's a 10% step I could take? Maybe I don't quite feel comfortable to take a full step into my executive presence or what I'm practicing. I can take a 10% step, right? What does that look like? Or if the idea of 10% doesn't resonate, another concept I use is a rubber band. Like a rubber band, when it's taut, it's working really, really well. But rubber bands can also stretch a little bit more. Now, if you overstretch, that's a different problem. But what's just a one more stretch I can make with my rubber band? And then going back to collaborative confidence, talk to a woman ahead of time who's going to be in the meeting, or a male ally. Listen, men are fabulous, and there are wonderful supportive men in the world and in the workplace. So go to a male ally colleague that you trust, or a woman in your circle, and say, this is what I'm struggling with. I'm struggling with speaking up in meetings, and I'm going to practice that today. Can you help me? Can you give me a little encouraging smile or nod if you see me during the meeting, maybe recoiling from that or whatever. So go to another woman and practice collaborative confidence, and or even say, would you mind asking me a question in the meeting? So then I can speak up.
Yeah.
So get those other people who are in your circle in on what you're practicing and what you're supporting, and then return the favor. Do something for her that supports her.
Yeah. Yeah. So that last example, was that in the book?
No, actually, your listeners are getting extra bonus material here, because this is everything I've just said about the 10% and the rubber band and the go to somebody else and ask for help. Well, I think collaborative confidence, of course, that's in the book all throughout, but it wasn't overtly written that way in the book.
Listen, I kind of laughed out loud because I was writing down, like, lead in, share it with somebody and have them prompt you. And so when you said it, I'm like, oh my gosh, did I read that already?
No, we were just on the same wavelength.
Awesome. So I just want to shift in our last few minutes. Thank you so much for that. And I'm hoping that you guys are writing. Like, I'm taking notes over here, and I'm not in corporate anymore, but just seeing how you can utilize these recommendations in any arena that you sit in.
Absolutely, any arena. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I want to shift to the accelerate pillar just a bit.
Sure.
Because even though there are a lot of conversations taking place around how women are treated in the workplace,
Mm-hmm.
we know that we still sit in a high patriarchal system.
Yes, yes.
And the way to bring about change, this idea of women coming together to bring about change, I just love.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's okay with you, I want to just read the first page of Accelerate.
Sure.
It's
Sure.
just a paragraph here. Drive essential change. And it says organizations that strategically nurture the talents of women leaders and purposely create environments where they can truly thrive, reap a multitude of benefits. It positively impacts the bottom line and creates a richer career pipeline for women leaders to traverse.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to read that because organizations, if anyone is listening,
Mm-hmm.
and you still question
Mm-hmm.
what women bring to the workplace, if you still, and this could be a woman, which my audience is primarily women, but what I know from being in the sector myself, my thinking had become patriarchal.
Sure. It's what we see. It's what we see. It's what we experience. Yes.
Yes. So we can unconsciously have biases
Mm-hmm.
that really don't move forward our own agenda.
Yeah.
So understanding that as we move women forward, we not only help the gender, but we also help the organization and
Yeah.
the benefits that are there. So what more might you want to add when you think about Accelerate? I'm thinking that this was important to you because you have a whole few chapters,
Yeah.
a whole
Yeah.
section
Yeah. Yeah.
on this. So what more might you want to add to that, if anything is coming up right away?
Well, I'll add some data, because I think that numbers and finances influence organizations. And then I'd like to share a personal story. It's not in the book. Again, bonus material for your listeners. And I think this story illustrates how a person can influence an organization. So with going back to some data with women and the impact of women's leadership. So there's many studies that show that when women are in high levels of leadership, when there is greater gender parity, equity in the top leadership positions, organizations are financially stronger. And there was a 17-year study by S&P Global that showed exactly that showed that when women are in C-suite positions, that stock prices go up, that profits increase, that revenue is stronger, innovation is stronger, R&D is more prevalent. So there are many studies that reveal all of that. So if organizations are motivated by the bottom line, then looking at gender diversity is a great way to generate that monetary gain. And it needs to start early. It can't, we need to be doing this at the early levels of a woman's career, not waiting 20, 30 years down the road, but doing it early in her career. And I'll add in real quickly that we've all heard of the glass ceiling, but there's also something called the broken rung. And the broken rung shows that for every 100 men who are promoted into management positions, 86 women are promoted into management positions. So long before the glass ceiling is even in our eyesight, women face the broken rung. And there are fewer women even at that managerial level, which then, of course, just continues to multiply as we look at higher levels of leadership. So I wanted to share that in terms of some data and some information, and that organizations can be more mindful about that broken rung, and they can look at and compare, the number of qualified men and women. I would never say just promote somebody or put somebody in a stretch assignment just to do it. No, they need the skills, they need to be talented, they need to have the expertise, the background, et cetera. They need to have met the qualifications. Otherwise, then it just actually makes it even worse when a person gets a job just for the sake of giving them a job. It's worse for the person, it's worse for the organization, it's worse for everybody. Mm-hmm. But I'll share with you a personal story of an organization that I belong to. And I was asked to join the board of directors of this nonprofit. And I declined it. And I was really clear about why I declined being on the board. Because when I looked around the board, and when I looked at the board, or excuse me, the organization would partner with other organizations and bring in speakers and so forth. When I looked around the board, when I looked around external speakers who were brought in, they were, at least visually, and I do want to make absolutely that caveat, visually, the individuals appear to be white, mostly white, like 90% plus white. And as much as I believed in the content of what the organization was offering, the makeup of who was in leadership, the makeup of who was being brought in to represent the organization, and even when I looked at the membership as a whole, and I'm a white woman, for your listeners who are listening, I'm a white woman, so please know that. And I refused, and I was very clear with the board president, and the board president had a couple of conversations with me and tried to woo me a few times, and I just said no. I said, once the organization puts a stake in the ground and decides that they are going to be committed to diversity, equity, inclusion, then we can come back and have another conversation. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly actually what ended up happening about a year or two later, that the organization, no, it wasn't even a year or two later, it was actually sooner than that. But at any rate, the organization created a DE&I committee. The organization is and has been much more mindful about the makeup of their board, being more, what's the word I'm looking for, to creating an environment that hopefully draws in a greater diversity of individuals who would want to be associated with the organization, and also greater diversity in the speakers who provide workshops and so forth for the organization. So that's maybe on a small scale, but that's an example of where somebody can just say, no, I'm not going to participate in this until the organization makes changes, makes important changes.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that story. And it is an eye-opener and helps people to identify whether or not an organization is in alignment with who you are, with
Yes,
your
yes,
values,
yes,
what
yes.
you believe in. Um, as you were talking, I just thought of all of the spaces I have sat in and been in, and when they show their executive board,
Oh,
they show it's just a bunch of white men.
yes, yes. It makes
And
them a turn.
you think still in this day and age, you've not yet found anyone else to hold a seat?
I know, I know. No, absolutely. And I will say, and I to maybe slightly counterbalance this, because I know this is absolutely the exception, this what I'm about to share. I know it's the exception, but Mary Barra is the CEO of General Motors. And the CFO is also a woman. And Mary talks about in an interview, she talks about that when she gets a slate of candidates for leadership positions, if it's not a diverse slate of candidates, she says to them, okay, what are you going to do differently? So the next time you bring me a slate of candidates, it is more diverse. So thank you, Mary, for doing that and for having the awareness and well, she's a CEO, I can say the awareness and the strength, but still that she is standing up for something that is very important that can so easily be looked over and ignored. And we need more of more Mary Barras at the highest levels, and even at I'll take away highest levels. We need more of that kind of thinking throughout organizations in order to
Yes.
change organizations.
Yes, I so agree. I say thank you as we talked about the shaping that develops as we navigate these spaces where we're unconsciously, I'm saying automatically, I won't say it is automatically and unconsciously shaped to thinking more like the male dominated systems that we have to navigate in, that she's able to set that aside,
Mhm.
just work within the things that are important to her as an individual.
Mhm.
And to your point, it is throughout the organization, because I used to see it on every level. There
Oh,
are hiring managers on every level.
yes,
And
yes.
the body of people that come in to be hired are not diverse. I've not seen where many have come back and said, I need another pool to pull from, or how do we get a different pool in the future? So kudos to her. Kudos to
Absolutely,
her.
absolutely.
So we are just at time. I'm always amazed at how fast the time goes when I'm in great conversations. Before we get ready to sign off, is there anything else that you would like to add? And then I'm going to ask that you tell people where to find Heather, where to find the book. But is there anything else you'd like to add, like tie this up with a nice little bow?
Oh, tied up with a bow. Well, thank you, thank you, thank you. I could keep talking for hours. It's so easy to be with you, Catherine, and you're a great interviewer and so engaging and conversational and thought-provoking. And you look at things from so many different angles. I so appreciate it. And I would say for your listeners, you can begin practicing collaborative confidence right now today. At your very next meeting, pay attention to a woman in a meeting and amplify her in some way. Thank her for contributions she has made. Ask her a question, ask her opinion. If she gets interrupted, redirect the conversation back to her. Get to a meeting early if you're going to a physical meeting, and save a seat at the table for another woman. Sit at the table yourself. Speak up in a meeting. Give an opinion. So a woman can literally begin practicing collaborative confidence today. So I would encourage all of your women listeners to just dive in and to start doing it.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, where can we find Heather? If it's social media, website, just tell the listeners how to get in touch with you.
Sure. So my website is my name, heatherbackstrom.com. And my LinkedIn is also Heather Backstrom. So you can find me on LinkedIn or on my website. And then my book, Collaborative Confidence, is also available on Amazon. So that's another place you can find more about me and more about the book.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. So thank you so much. So much. And I don't know, I didn't hear, maybe you did, but did we spell Backstrom?
Why don't we do that? Because it is, yes, that's a great idea. Thank you. It's Backstrom, Backstrom. And if you need a little tickler, I like to say it's like Nordstrom, but without the money. So
I say Nordstrom back when.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. The early days of Nordstrom.
It has been an absolute pleasure. I thank you so much for your yes, sharing this space with me and giving such valuable information to the listeners. I do primarily work with high achievers, so I know that there are a lot of women leaders. And so those that are already connected to me, those that will connect and hear this, I am certain will help to elevate, will help to amplify them as individuals and accelerate their path. So typically, as I'm closing, one of the things that I like to do is just share my heart, and comes in the form of a prayer. And this week, what I will say, my prayer is that you will truly hold the spirit and meaning of collaborative confidence, that you will truly hold, own, and know in your knowing that it is you who is responsible for your own confidence, as well as helping others with their confidence. And then as we sign off, I want to remind you that in this life, we get to choose. So choose to listen to where your heart speaks and choose to live a sensational life. Peace and blessings.
Thank you for listening to Where Her Heart Speaks with Coach Catherine, where Catherine aims to challenge and disrupt ineffective thoughts and behaviors to help you not only embody peace, joy, calm, and certainty, but also help you live the life you've always dreamed of living. Follow Catherine on Facebook and Instagram at I Am Catherine James, and visit www.catherinejames.com. Remember, to live the life of your dreams, you must go within and return to the place where your heart speaks.